What's up, people? So today I'm going to be doing something a little different than what I've done in the past. I've been asked to remediate an autobiography I completed for my Digital Literacies class. So here I am, being digital, literate, and remediatory. Is that a word? It isn't. I know this because I was able to look it up on an online dictionary in like, what, 5 seconds? Which is amazing and relevant, seeing as this autobiography remediation has to do with the technology I've used growing up and how it's had an impact on me all these years. What can I say about the technology of my early years? Well, not a lot. The earliest technological piece of equipment I can remember using was the dinky little Zenith box that my parents called a television. I suppose that wasn't the only piece of tech my parents were cool enough to use back in the 90s, because I am aware of a home video my parents have of the first night they brought my cute little infant ass home to their mobile home. I won't go into detail as to the content of the video, because I'm fairly sure my parents want to keep some dignity. It's actually not really that bad. They were just partying with their friends while I was on, a towel on the floor, as all infants should be. Anyway, the TV and the home video camera were just about the only pieces of tech my parents had. Anyway, back to the TV, whatever you want to call it. Barney and Winnie the Pooh just weren't doing it for me by the time I was 13. I mean, by the time I was 3. So my parents were kind enough to introduce me to VHS tapes, particularly Toy Story and The Wizard of Oz. Movies. That's right. Movies. Film. The obsession that stuck with me up until this very day. I have my parents and their crappy little Zenith to thank for that obsession. About a year after my sister was born, my happy little family moved to Newton, Kansas, where the only technology I was aware of was really just the TV still. By the time I had seen Toy Story 105 times and The Wizard of Oz 107 times, I needed a new form of entertainment. Luckily, I didn't have to go outside and be active for very long, because when I was 5, I got my Sega Genesis. That's right, folks, the Sega Genesis 3rd edition. I have the same damn console I've had since I was 5, and I play the exact cartridges that I had when I was 5 to this day. I defeated Eggman so many times as Sonic the Hedgehog that I'm surprised he was never like, you know what, just go ahead, just leave, just take the big ring and go. I don't have time for this today. Video games to me were the culmination of everything cool in the universe. Whereas movies allowed me to escape into another world, video games allowed me to be there and control them with controllers. The Sega was cool and all, but when I was a little older I got the Nintendo 64. Hands down, the greatest Christmas present I have ever received to this day. What made the 64 so badass were the 4 controller ports. There are 4 controller ports on this thing. Although I wasn't thinking about it at the time, this was the first time I really realized that technology was becoming more integrative. It was starting to bring more and more people together, creating new kinds of interaction and communication. But this was only the beginning. This might be a good time to talk about computers. At school in those days, we had those crappy beige desktops that ran Windows 98 or whatever, and it was on these machines that I learned to type. We had little plastic sleeves which covered the letters and helped us learn the keyboard. We were also taught home row, which I don't think I've utilized for about 15 years, but it was good to know. I'm a hunt and pet kind of guy. What can I say? While I was working solely with Windows computers in school, at home I was using a Macintosh. As a kid, the only difference between a Mac and a PC that I could see was that the Mac had a sweet-ass transparent design that came in colors like green, blue, and red, whereas the PC was, well, beige, like my room. Not very inviting. The Mac my family had contained large-scale 3D video games like Bugdom and Nanosaur, while the PC at school had checkers and pinball. Whee! Now that I think about it, the games I play on each one might explain my preference of Mac to PC, which is kind of funny because you really can't game on Macs these days. Anyway, growing up, using both these setups was beneficial in that I'm fully able to maneuver each operating system quite efficiently without any major hangups or confusion. Of course, with the computers came the internet. Lo, communication was forever changed, and face-to-face interaction came to be defined as dull, because, where are the memes? I remember having to ask permission of my parents to use the dial-up connection on the Mac. But at least at school it was somewhat fast. Once we got high-speed internet at home, I became lustful towards social media. All my friends were communicating through AOL Instant Messenger and Zanga when they weren't at school, and I needed to be part of this hype. My parents were smart and could see the potential dangers of social media, so I ended up not participating in it. Just kidding. I totally went behind their backs and signed up for Hotmail, AOL, Yahoo, Zanga, MySpace, and eventually Facebook. When my parents discovered I had a Facebook account, there was hell to pay. Believe me. It's funny because now I communicate with my parents more on Facebook than I do in real life. But don't worry, Mom and Dad, I'll come visit soon. In the meantime, hit me up on Skype, my phone, or Xbox Live, because we have the technology to do so. Let's talk about our current situation, shall we? Could we be any closer to Skynet taking over the planet at this point? Technology is everywhere. Where isn't technology? My family was always a bit late to the party when it came to the latest technological innovations, and that was typically okay with me. Much like when they forbade me to participate in social media, my parents were always a bit trepidatious when it came to whether or not we should be consumers of the latest fad. I had a pay-by-the-minute phone until I was in high school, but having to wait so long for an iPhone while all my friends already had one taught me an important lesson: delayed gratification, as my dad would put it. Jumping headfirst into something new can be dangerous. As a youngster, I really shouldn't have had access to social media. I really shouldn't have had access to HDTV, and I shouldn't have had access to violent video games, whether or not they were in 8-bit. Waiting patiently and maturing before having access to these types of things has allowed me to be more appreciative of the benefits of technology. It has also allowed me to savor what I'm lucky enough to have for a long time. Delayed gratification has instilled in me a great sense of nostalgia. While you all are out there playing massive multiplayer online video games, I sit on my couch perfectly content with Galaga or Star Fox. As someone who grew up in an age where technology progressed so rapidly, I think that I'll be a bit like my parents in the future. I'm going to hold on to the technology that has served me well in the past. I won't get rid of my CDs. I'll hold on to my DVDs, and iPod, and my GameCube. But the advancement of technology also gets me really excited. While I remain nostalgic, I want to keep up as well. I'll savor my 4K TV, my MacBook Pro, which I'm using right now, my GPS, my camera, and my new Nintendo. This is my newest one, and my favorite one. Her name is Clarissa. She's very versatile. She can do a variety of things, and I love her so much. Technology has come a long way, but I don't plan on staying far behind it, and I plan on using it to its advantages, for there are many of them. Stay sweet.